All right, guys, so I want to go over some of the reasons why I feel that many of your tracks are not currently licensable right now. You can absolutely make the changes and you can make those adjustments to your producing, mixing, and mastering skills to get them to the point where they are licensable. But right now we have the Sync Academy Award contest going on. If you haven't submitted your track yet, I'll put the link in the description box below. I'm giving away cash prizes for the top 3 most licensable tracks. Now, I know that there's some confusion and there's some curiosity from many of you. What is a licensable track? What makes a song licensable versus one that's not licensable? Well, I've shared many of those reasons before, but in this presentation, I'm basically going to walk you guys through some of the main offenders that I've already heard from many of your submissions. And even if you haven't submitted to this contest, you might be currently making music that's committing some of these mistakes. And if you are not going to be putting yourself in a position to get a lot of placements in the TV film library business. Now remember, just getting accepted by a library, that is certainly step one. You have to get into libraries to succeed. But if you're not providing very valuable and useful and licensable music to your licensing partners, to your libraries that you work with and have contracts with, your tracks can just sit on their shelf and their clients won't be using any of your music. So you're not really getting any closer to full-time income with music licensing. So this presentation has basically helped to meant to put you on the right path and basically start pointing out maybe some of the sort of obvious things maybe you weren't aware of that you should stop doing in your tracks and in your mixing and your mastering to make sure you start creating more licensable music, okay? So the first one that I started noticing with these submissions is way too much looping and repetition in your tracks. A lot of producers make a 1-bar beat or a 1-bar melody, a 1-bar chord progression, something like that. Because they like it so much, they decide, and this might be how you've been producing most of your career, is they select that 1 bar, copy paste, copy paste, copy paste, and the entire 2 to 3 minute long track is very repetitive, it's very loopy. The reason why that's not licensable, it might be a great 1 bar or 2 bars of cool music, but if you're not providing any sort of movement, direction, story, evolution with your track, well, a supervisor or an editor that might want to place your track behind a scene, after a couple of minutes, or not even minutes, a couple of seconds of using your track, realize we're not really going there anywhere with this. This track really isn't pushing the scene forward. I kind of feel like it's a little bit distracting because it's so loopy, it's so repetitive. There are times and seasons and reasons why you might want to start to put a little bit more repetitive stuff in your track. But if I'm listening to your track and I can't tell between the last part of your track, the middle, or the beginning, where we are in it because it all kind of sounds the same, that's a problem. You're not going to get a lot of placements that way. Even if you do get a placement, you'll get very short placements, right? Remember, you want to start getting longer placements because the longer ones generally typically pay more in those back-end performance royalties. That's why you want to have a nice track that has some dynamics. It evolves. It doesn't have the same thing happening over and over again. Secondly, a lot of the submissions I've heard are too slow. They're very dreamy, kind of spacey, sort of experimental sounding. I'll just be honest with you guys, slow, romantic, ballad, dreamy, those kind of sounds in any genre, I don't care what genre you're producing in, just don't get the kind of play that a mid or up-tempo or high-energy fun track would get, okay? It's just one of those things that if you watch TV and you listen to the music in the background, there's usually always energy, upbeat, at least mid-tempo, 100 BPM, 120 BPM to much higher. Just because most programming and TV shows want to get their viewers excited and motivated and encouraged or optimistic or pick up the phone to call and order a product or go online and order a product. So you're just going to find that if you're spending a lot of time making these slow BPM, dreamy, experimental sounds, you're not going to find a lot of use for your music. Number 3, no attention-grabbing intro. So a lot of tracks that I got submitted to me for this contest and that I've heard from other feedback opportunities I've given is these 30-second, 40-second, sometimes even a minute-long intros, which is just long, drawn-out intros that don't have any drums, and it's just kind of this really spacey sort of a feeling. That might be appropriate if you're trying to sell your music to fans, to an online, you're trying to sell music or something like that. So it's a different consideration. When you get into the TV film licensing business, you need to get right into your music. You need to start delivering something within like 2 to 3 seconds of your track starting. So having an attention-grabbing drum intro or a cool sound effect or a guitar riff or whatever it is that you do, whatever style you're working with, you need to put an exclamation mark at the very beginning of your track so that a supervisor, an editor, somebody who's just kind of previewing a bunch of tracks really quickly, which is what they do, your track immediately says, hey, hold on, listen to more to what I got. I'm going to deliver you some really awesome stuff here. If you have this slow, not really interesting intro, skip. It's just one of those things about human psychology. We are attracted to loud, attention-grabbing things. So you make sure that you sort of put that in the beginning of your track to get more opportunities for your music. Similar to this, a lot of the tracks that I heard didn't have any definite hit endings, all right? So in the licensing business, it's almost a 99% guarantee that when you finish your track, put a kick, a crash, some impact, sort of a thing, go back to the root chord of the track to make sure it feels resolved, so that we have like a nice happy bow that we tied up at the end of the track. Don't give a 30-second long kind of experimental outro where you're just kind of looping something cool. Again, that's more what you would do if you were trying to sell as an artist or to a fan base. Licensing, we make production music. It's different from what you've been doing probably most of your career. So those are some of the things you need to start just sort of, it's an automatic thing. When you get to the end of your track, give that hit definite ending. You need that because what if a supervisor needs to get out of your track from a scene into a new track? Well, you don't have that hit ending for them to use to get out of your track in a clean way. They're not going to use your song, right? So it's going to limit the amount of placements that you can get. Some tracks that I've been hearing have way too many high frequency leads and instruments in them, or even the entire mix is just too focused in the high range of the EQ spectrum for your mixing and mastering, right? The reason why this does not make your track licensable is, think about it. The human voice is in the mid to upper range of the frequency spectrum, right? So if your music is full of bells and high synth leads and crashes and and hi-hats and percussion and a lot of stuff that's going on in the high frequency range, well, guess what? You're conflicting and you're running up right against the human voice. Well, watch TV, what's going on? Either two actors are talking, or an actor is giving a monologue, or there's a voiceover, there's a narrator, right? The human voice is all over TV, so you want to make sure that your tracks are a little bit more centered in the mid to low range so that you're not stepping on top of what's happening on TV. Again, I know that many producers are missing opportunities and not getting placements. They have a great sounding track, really cool. It's too distracting though. If the video producer or the supervisor or the editor decides, you know what, this song is actually taking away from the focus of our foreground, which is what our actors are saying on screen, your track is out of there in 2 seconds. Like, there's no sort of, well, I like the track so much, maybe it's okay if it's a little, no. You have no chance of keeping that placement. Your track will get thrown out and they'll find another one that's not as distracting. So make sure you focus most of your production in the mid to low range and make sure it's nice and full down there. Doesn't mean you don't add anything in the high frequency range, but you certainly don't want to stack up your mix way too high up there. You're just going to find you're not going to get those opportunities. Some tracks I've been hearing are way too minimal, right? Like just a drum beat and a bass line, or just a drum beat and a synth or something like that. There's not enough musical development with these tracks, and there are some opportunities for minimal music, but minimal music is deceptively very difficult. It sounds very easy if you don't have to have a lot of instruments in your track, but the trick with minimal music is making sure it's not too repetitive, right? Because if you only have 2 or 3 instruments that you're using, how do you make sure that that doesn't start to get really loopy and really boring? Because you still have to create, again, that audio journey for a listener to go on so it doesn't feel too repetitive. So a lot of tracks that I'm getting, they're just not developed enough yet. And that comes with time, with experience, but there are definitely some rules you can follow to make sure that your track doesn't feel too like it's in a demo form. That's basically the best way that I could describe it. A lot of these tracks felt like they just weren't fully done yet. They were just still demos. This is a huge one. A lot of tracks that I get, not only with this contest, but with other feedback opportunities I provide, there's no genre or emotional focus with the track, okay? So I might hear a track and it's got a little bit of pop, a little bit of EDM, a little bit of maybe even rock or even orchestral. It's kind of in all these different areas and it doesn't feel focused and like it could be categorized easily. Now you can do hybrids where you combine EDM with orchestral, or you provide hip hop with rock. And you can obviously combine these 2 genres in a very effective way. Now there's a lot of, again, rules to follow with those considerations. But if you're just kind of throwing stuff up there and like, I like this lead, I like this drum, I like this, but you don't really have a sort of game plan for where are you trying to land, right? Like, where would this be categorized in a music library's catalog? If a library gets your track and it's kind of cool, but they're like, I don't really know where I'd put this. It's not really hip hop, it's not really pop, it's not EDM, it's kind of all over the place. You're not getting accepted because you need to make sure that your track is very categorizable. I think that's a word. That your track can actually easily fit into one genre or maybe a category of hybrid genres, right? Same thing with the emotional focus. So if you're trying to go for an optimistic song, but then you have parts that are kind of sad sounding or other parts that feel reflective or too introspective, you're kind of all over the place emotionally. You don't need to provide a whole wheelhouse of emotions with one song. In fact, one song should only have one emotion, But one emotion can have various tints of color to it, right? So if it is optimistic, well, you can have the part where it's like building up tension that you're looking forward to something. You can have the part of the chorus where it's like you're celebrating, you've achieved something, so it's very optimistic. You can go to a different part of optimism with your verse, right? So you can explore all these different shades and colors of one particular emotion, but you certainly don't want to go from optimism to depression to tension, right? And think that you need to cover all of those gamuts. You're really not going to be accepted when you kind of try to do too many things in one track. And one of the sort of technical things that I find is a lot of mixes just aren't loud or impactful enough. So they just sound quiet. They don't sound like they're professionally mixed or mastered. They just kind of don't stand out. So as I'm listening to a whole bunch of submissions or the tracks that I'm really considering, usually the ones that are the loudest are the ones that I'm the most interested in, just because they feel like they would stand up to the sort of professional standards that are out there, right? So if you have a track, it's really well produced, really cool, but it's 6 or 10 dB lower than everything else in the library, well, your track, even though it's beautifully put together and crafted, if it's not mastered right and not brought up to the professional standards of this business, again, it's that same thing with the attention grabbing intros. If it's not grabbing the attention and it kind of sounds quiet, not that interesting, it won't seem as exciting or enticing to somebody who's previewing your track and considering adding it to their TV show. So you got to hit those minimum standards for this business. Now, the good news is, though, I'm also announcing today the launch of my new upcoming online platform. Now, I know I've teased at this and I've kind of hinted at what it is, but today I'm going to give you actually the details that maybe some of you are really interested in, because I've designed this platform to help you start creating licensable music, to basically fix all those problems that we just went over, to make sure you're not making those mistakes and instead you're on the straight and narrow path to start making licensable music. Again, getting into a library is awesome and it's step one, but a lot of producers, and this is common, I think some of you guys even watching this might even know this, that even if you're in a library, it doesn't guarantee just because you got accepted, you're getting placements. There's another consideration, and that is making sure you're creating licensable and useful music for their clients, okay? So there's a lot of considerations and a lot of skills and technical knowledge that you need to have under your belt to make sure that you're delivering the best kind of music possible. Again, I know you have limited time in your studio, right? You don't have hours and hours and hours to give every single week. So with the few very limited and special hours that you have in your studio, you need to start putting good habits into your workflow, right? To make sure that you're not wasting, let's say, months and months making music that might get accepted and might not get accepted. But even if it does, it just sits on the shelf. You know why I'm saying that? Because that's exactly what I did when I first got started. I spent months making tons and tons of music. Some of it got placed, but honestly, a vast majority of it in the beginning of my career sat on the shelf, and it still sits on the shelf. It doesn't get any play. There's plenty of tracks that I produced that have gotten no placements, okay? I had to learn the hard way, so I started comparing. I was looking at my royalty checks after I got them, and I was like, okay, well, these tracks get placed, but those ones don't. What's the difference? And I would go back and listen to those tracks, and I'd start literally taking mental notes, physical notes, and realizing, wow, there are some sort of golden rules I should start following to make sure that I start getting more and more placements. So again, not rocket science, but who teaches this stuff? Nobody really does. That's why I put this together, and it is called Sync Academy, okay? This is a place where you can log in, you can learn, you can start creating that licensable music, and you can connect with an online community of producers just like you who are pursuing the TV film licensing business. So let me give you the details of it, okay? There will be over 100 hours of video tutorials, okay? I'm still building it right now. There's actually quite a few hours of tutorials, but I still have quite a bit more work to go, so it's not exactly ready yet. However, if you're watching this video after I released it, I'll put a link in the description. You can learn more about it. But for right now, yes, it's on the way, and I am definitely excited and totally just blown away by the amount of knowledge and videos that are going to be included with this platform. It's really, really exciting to see this much content come together. And it's going to be taught by, and it is taught by professional music licensing producers. So I am obviously the principal instructor with it, so you're getting a lot of tutorials directly from me, from my personal experience. Again, not BS, not fluff, not hypothetical. I think this could work. I'm giving you guys my golden rules for what worked for my career, okay? Why I was making all those mistakes. I'm gonna help you avoid all those mistakes in the early parts of my career, avoid all the ones that we just talked about, and make sure that you have the skills to stay on that path towards making this your full-time job. And then I've also brought on board other professional music licensing producers. Some of them do this full-time, and others are in the beginning stages of their career, but they are certainly actively working with music libraries right now. So they have firsthand direct knowledge of what works for them and what doesn't work. So not only do you get my golden rules and my perspective, but you're also getting a whole host of other producers that are also professionally working in this business, okay? So a lot of powerful perspective and information is coming your way very shortly. There are producing, mixing, and mastering tutorials. So again, basically these are going to be covering everything that we talked about in the last slide, about all those mistakes and all those reasons why your tracks maybe aren't licensable. We're going to start fixing that, how to make sure that you have dynamics, you're avoiding the looping problem, you're mixing your tracks well, you're mastering your tracks so that they are appropriately geared for this business and that they're going to be useful and licensable and seen as a professional product by the libraries that you submit to, okay? We also are going to have some business chats in there, also how to license or how to name your tracks, how to make sure that you're marketing your tracks. When you're not there to market them and you're not there to pitch them, how do you know how to make sure that your tracks jump off the shelf, right? Just attention-grabbing track titles is one of the big things that nobody really knows about in this business. Nobody really teaches it, but we are including those kind of tutorials in this platform as well. We're going to cover rock, pop, hip hop, EDM, orchestral, which includes trailer music, corporate music, Latin, folk, indie, everything. All licensable genres that I feel can actually get you to that full-time status. We include those kind of tutorials in this platform. So that means that there will be producing tutorials for each one of these genres. There will also be independent mixing tutorials. So not just like general mixing, how do you mix a track, but there'll be hip hop mixing tutorials, EDM mixing tutorials, and same with mastering ones. So you'll learn in each particular genre what considerations you should really be aware of, because every genre is a little bit different. Every genre needs to be mixed and mastered and obviously produced in its own unique way. And so all of these tutorials are going to be sort of individualized by genre. So you can basically log in on whatever genre or genres that you specialize in. You can get that individual information about, not just generic, general, this is kind of how it works for everything, but like going into the actual details of each genre. It's really cool stuff. And of course, every video, every tutorial that is in this platform is going to be geared specifically and entirely 100% towards TV, film, music licensing. This is why Sync Academy is going to be different than anything else you've ever seen online. You can find plenty of master courses, plenty of mixing courses, plenty of how to produce music, how to master music, right? Plenty of those things are online. But what you will not find is a complete one-stop shop for how to make licensable music. Right? Remember, this is called production music that we're making in the TV film licensing business. So every tutorial, every bit of knowledge that you're going to get in this platform is going to basically steer you towards making sure your tracks are appropriate for the TV film licensing business, okay, specifically for that. So it's highly specialized. It's really niched down in terms of the kind of information that you're going to get with this really cool thing coming. And I am also going to incorporate with this academy a private social network. So you basically, if you join, you can connect, you can collaborate, you can ask questions, you can share your knowledge. We have also other producers that want to chime in and share their personal workarounds and their sort of techniques for how they work. So not only do you get the professional producers that are in the Sync Academy, the ones that I have obviously brought on board to help teach this kind of stuff, but you're going to get plenty of other also awesome, helpful tips and information and tutorials from other members, okay? So you can also do co-writes with other members if you're looking for other producers to collaborate, connect with. Sometimes that's the best way to start getting your music out into the library world, is to connect with another producer that maybe already has a relationship with a library. It's one of those ways that you don't have to go through the pitching process, but you can actually go collaborate, maybe split your writer share 50-50. Make sure you guys are doing equal amounts of work, and then you can connect, you can collaborate, and you can actually do that to get your start into this business. And also just to be part of a really cool community that's productive and positive and encouraging. Remember, this can be a very lonely business. As you know, you work from your home studio, and hopefully you have people around you that support you and encourage you. I hope you do. But how many people around you even understand really what you're trying to do, or how this business works, or how to get sort of like how to push you really through those sort of tough times, the days where you don't feel like making music and you're kind of demotivated or you're confused about something. This is the best part about joining an online social network, and from people that are not just music producers, but producers that are trying to succeed with music licensing, right? So you're connecting with very highly motivated, like-minded producers when you join Sync Academy that can help encourage you and motivate you and keep you on that straight and narrow path towards doing this full time. That's what we're all trying to encourage each other to do here in this platform when we launch it, okay? So it's one of those things, like if you're not surrounding yourself with people like this, like the journey is so much longer, it's so much harder, because I didn't have something like this in my career. And there was certainly more than one occasion where I felt like giving up. And I actually did for a couple of months, actually a couple years back, I did give up because I didn't have this. I didn't have this community of people that I could log in and say, hey guys, like I'm bummed. I'm not feeling it. I'm really not motivated. I'm feeling depressed. can you guys help me out? Can you try to encourage me? And this is what we're doing in the Sync Academy. Okay, we are encouraging each other, we're pushing each other, and we're holding each other to really high standards to make sure that we succeed. I mean, that's really what it's about. And again, I put this whole thing together to get you results. Okay, I don't put this stuff together to, you know, just get you hyped up on a dream. Oh, this would be cool, whatever. If you're not getting results, I'm not doing my job. Okay, so every single program you guys have seen, everything that I put together, from SyncEdge to the Syndicate to my master course to the directory, everything that I've ever offered you guys, including all the videos that I do here on YouTube, it's all designed to get you towards your goal and to actually get those real results of actual income, actual royalties pouring into your bank account, sync fees getting poured your way as well, and getting those licensing contracts, getting those music library acceptance letters, right? You guys have seen the testimonials, you guys have seen my success stories, so I don't need to toot my horn too much more, but this stuff really does work, and I think you guys know that Sync Academy will also be a very highly valuable, almost necessary part of your arsenal to make music licensing your full-time job. And it is coming January 2nd, 2019. Okay, so we got a couple of weeks, but it's on its way and it's going to be incredible. So what I'm going to do is actually post the winners of the Sync Academy Awards contest. And I will also, at that point on January 2nd, I will give you guys the link to access this. Now, right now, I'm giving early access to SyncEdge members only. So if you're a SyncEdge member, look out for an email. I just sent you an early access invite. If you want to check it out, I'm going to give you actually also a free preview so you guys can see what this is all about. But for everybody else, this will be available on January 2nd. Okay, it's coming very soon. So stay tuned and keep those music licensing submissions coming. Okay, take heed of all this knowledge that you've got here. Listen to what I'm saying with these things that you should start to avoid. Do your best on your own to try to start avoiding those mistakes, because there are plenty and plenty of producers that can make music. How many producers can actually make licensable music? Very little. So it's such a small number of producers actually, when I know this because I'm getting all these submissions, guys, so I can see the percentages here. And it's literally probably less than 5% of you that I've gotten from the Sync Academy award contest that is making licensable music right now. So a vast majority of you do need to work on this kind of stuff, okay? I'm not trying to pick on you or attack you or anything like that, but if you want to succeed, you got to learn how to do it the right way. That's just the sort of golden rule of getting into a new business. You need to learn from somebody who succeeded, and you need to emulate what's worked for them. That's what I'm giving you here with Sync Academy. So I am stoked. I am excited. I hope you guys join me with this program when I launch it. If you have any questions, you have any, whatever, post it below. I'd love to hear more about what you guys think about this, but I know this is going to be an absolutely game-changing platform for those of you that want to do music licensing full-time. So thank you so much for watching, and take care.